Good evening and welcome to the open house for the zoning amendment applications for 19 Linwood and lot 39, 150 Central Avenue, McNally House Hospice. Be advised that our meetings are live streamed and the participants will be recorded visually and audibly. The basic premise of this open house is to provide the opportunity for the public to provide input on the proposed application. I would like to stress that there have been no decisions or recommendations made by council or staff on these applications. To ensure a fair process, members of council are to hear public input, but not engage in debate about the merits of the application. Opinions on the application should not be made at this time. Members will have the opportunity to express all their views and concerns when the final staff report and recommendation comes back. A subsequent public meeting will be held at a later date in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. If you missed the deadline for participation via the Zoom link, do not be concerned, as all comments and emails have been recorded and will be taken into consideration in the staff report. As we navigate the virtual open house meeting, we ask that all participants for your patience. Each participant will be called in order and will be provided 10 minutes to speak. Each presenter may speak only once. If you hear your comment presented by someone else, please do not duplicate the remarks. The agent or staff will respond to each question raised. All the comments are being recorded and will be taken into consideration. When you are called, we ask that you state your name and address. Persons addressing council shall confine their remarks to the business at hand and shall direct their comments or questions to myself. Staff are taking notes of all questions asked this evening. At the end of the delegations, the consultant will be asked to respond to all the questions, comments raised. If you feel that your questions have not been responded to this evening, you can email our planning department at planning@grimsby.ca. This meeting is conducted in accordance with the town's procedural bylaw. All participants are asked to conduct themselves with decorum and respect and provide the opportunity for all members of the public to express their opinion in an environment of tolerance on all points of view and free of intimidation. The intent is to create a venue to encourage people to participate in the process and provide their input. With us this evening is the agent for the applicant, Diana Morris, T. Johns Consulting, Terry Johns, T. Johns Consulting, and Adam Makayowicz. On behalf of McNally House, in attendance are Pamela Blackwood, Debbie Zimmerman, Murray Bain, and Dr. Denise Marshall. Planning staff in attendance is Walter Basic, Assistant Director of Planning. Mr. Basic will now give a presentation. Good evening, Walter.
Good evening, Lord Mayor. Thank you for the introduction. Hello, members of council,
Lord Mayor's Niagara-on-the-Lake. I'm just mayor.
Just Mayor yes. Jordan. Good evening, just Mayor Jordan. Good evening, area residents and members of council and the McNally House team who will be presenting later. I will now share the screen for the presentation. That's not it. Apologies. Here we go. Okay, Mayor Jordan, is it full screen for everybody? I have the right one?
I don't know.
Can you see the public open house meeting?
It's not full screen, Walter.
I just see a bunch of files.
Oh, I see. Okay, one second. I'm sharing the wrong screen. Okay, I'll start over. Here it is. Okay. My apologies. Here we are.
Yeah, that looks
better. Is this it now? Oh, okay, yep. Thank you. All right. Again, hello, everybody. This is, as the mayor had indicated, this is an open house. There are 2 applications that we will be considering tonight. Both are associated with the McNally House redevelopment, but they are separate lots. One is lot 39, which is located approximately 150 Central Avenue, just west of the existing McNally House site. And the other site is located at 19 Linwood Avenue, just east of the existing McNally site. Again, I will be doing a brief presentation outlining some of the official plan policies that are applicable to the site. The applicant will then follow with a presentation, and then we will open the floor to questions from members of the public. The purpose of this meeting is to provide an overview of the planning process and how you can get involved, provide an overview of the policy and regulatory framework that's applicable to the applications that are before us tonight. The applicant will then provide information and details regarding the proposal. And then I and the applicant's team will be available to answer any questions and listen to any feedback from the public. In terms of the process, initially we, as with every application, we are required to meet with the applicants to determine what all of the agencies that would be involved in the review of an application would require, what materials would be required in order for the application to be deemed complete. Then the applicant submits the proposal and the application. We then circulate the proposal to the public. We also circulate the proposal to various agencies that would be interested in review of the application. There are some that are legislated and others that are optional for technical review. We are currently at the open house stage of the process. Following the open house, we will provide all of the feedback that we receive from the various agencies as well as the public to the applicant. The applicant is then asked to review the various comments that are received and provide a response prior to any statutory public meeting being held. Following the statutory public meeting, which is, and again, a second opportunity for the public to participate in the process, staff will prepare a recommendation report to council, and those who request to be informed of the council meeting when the decision is being considered can do so by requesting it to town staff. How can amendments to plans occur? Well, the Planning Act provides authority to private citizens and just generally applicants to submit applications to amend official plans, to amend zoning bylaws for applications that don't meet current bylaw requirements. The town is required to process these applications. Zoning bylaws may only be amended if it's determined by the approval authority, which is the town council, that the proposed changes comply with the overall intent of the official plan and result in development that is compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. Now, how can you get involved? We have set up a website. It's called Let's Talk Grimsby. To view the applications, all the materials that have been submitted are been loaded on the website. You can review those materials and provide feedback there. You can write a letter or email planning staff at planning@grimsby.ca. You can send a copy of your letter or an email to your ward councillor. In order to stay informed, please provide us with your contact information. By doing so, you'll receive notice of future meetings, information on how to obtain a staff report at the end of the process, information regarding speaking in front of the committee or council, should you wish to do so, and information on how you can appeal the application if you feel it's necessary. Now, again, this is a location plan which illustrates where the 2 parcels are that are the subject of the open house tonight. Again, the first parcel is located at the northwest corner of the site that currently supports the hospice as well as the nursing home and West Lincoln Memorial Hospital. It's a vacant lot that's part of the subdivision surrounding it, which is known as Lot 39. The other property is located at the intersection of Linwood Avenue and Sunnylee Crescent, directly opposite Sunnylee Crescent. Currently supports a dwelling, and is the formal address is 19 Linwood Avenue. The official plan policies that are applicable to 19 Linwood Avenue, the designation is low density residential. This designation permits uses primarily such as single detached, semi-detached, duplexes, secondary suites. It also permits community facilities, bed and breakfast establishments, local convenience and retail stores, daycare facilities, and the other uses that you see there. With regard to development criteria that the official plan has for stable residential neighborhoods, the objectives of the development criteria within this particular designation are to enhance the livability and physical appeal of neighborhoods, to ensure that development reflects and fits in with established character. In terms of the general built form, the policies require compatible development adjacent to neighboring built form. It provides opportunities for using zoning standards to help achieve these compatibilities with regard to setbacks, height, things like that, building massing. Parking lots which occupy significant portions of at-grade frontages on public roads shall be not be permitted. The other lot, as you see here, is in a different designation. It's designated institutional area. That's the light blue designation. This designation permits a variety of uses that you see here, including government service delivery administration, places of worship, educational recreation facilities, accessory housing related to institutional uses, accessory retail, commercial uses, and cemeteries. In this particular designation, the policies are a little bit different. It basically states that all new development or redevelopment shall be subject to site plan control. Some of the evaluation criteria that are applicable to institutional designations include identifying incompatibilities with surrounding uses, particularly residential uses, and making sure that those incompatibilities that are identified can be mitigated. The preparation of a traffic impact study, which outlines potential impacts on surrounding areas, and identifying how those can be mitigated again. The scale of buildings must be compatible with the character and image of the surrounding area. In terms of the zoning bylaw, again, the two parcels are highlighted here in the light red. Both zoning categories, or both sites, are in a residential detached 2 zoning category. One is 35% lot coverage, the one on Central Avenue, and the maximum lot coverage for the site on Linwood Avenue is 25%. That's what the 0.25 is after the zone title. The permitted uses include detached dwellings, group homes, home occupations, bed and breakfast, secondary suites. As you note, the proposed use is not permitted in this particular zoning category. And there on the right-hand side, you see some of the performance standards in terms of lot size, lot coverage, setbacks. Front yard setback has to be the average of adjacent houses, minimum rear yard, quarter of the lot depth, side yards, and maximum building height of 9 meters, as you see. And I will now turn it over to Murray Bain, who's going to be leading the applicant's team, who will also be joined by Terry Johns and Adam McCarowitz. I think I got that right. And Debbie Zimmerman for the applicant's presentation. So if you just give me a moment while I set up the other presentation. One sec. My apologies, everybody. I can't seem to get off the screen. This presentation has taken over, and I can't find.
Walter, would you like me to try? We're working on resolving the situation, everyone. Please be patient.
Hello, everybody. I'm back. Oh, technical difficulties. Just give me 1 second. I will track down that presentation. It's a very big file.
Just tell him I'm going to share it.
Walter, I've got the presentation right here. I'm going to share it.
I've got it now. Okay, I'm ready. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes, it's great, Walter. Thank you.
All right. Oh, my apologies. My goodness, I got frozen. Give me 1 second. You full screen, and here we are. All right, proceed. Murray, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Walter, and good evening, everyone, to the mayor and councillors and staff, as well as our neighbors. Thanks very much. I wish to thank you for the opportunity to present this information this evening. So my name is Murray Bain, and I'm the president of McNally House Hospice and chair of the board. With me this evening from McNally House is our Pamela Blackwood. She's our executive director of the hospice, and Debbie Zimmerman, who serves as a director on the McNally House board. T. Johns, our planning consultants, will introduce themselves in a couple of minutes. So at McNally House, we take great pride in providing gold standard hospice care for those we have the honor of accompanying on their final journey. We also know there will always be more that can be done. The services provided at McNally were never intended to be stagnant. Our development and growth needs to continue in order to fulfill our social and moral responsibility to make every bit of a person's time as special and precious as possible. We all experience death, dying, and bereavement. It touches each of us many times throughout our lives. Supporting people to live well until the last breaths is a measure of our humanity and our society. And helping families stay well and cope through bereavement is the mark of a compassionate community. Now, recognizing that lives are lived from beginning to end, we're called to help people live their life in every moment as best we can. As we have mentioned to many of you, while we've been planning and developing this project, we have simply outgrown the existing facility. As the population of West Niagara continues to grow, and the population continues to grow older, McNally House needs to grow alongside of our community so that we can provide adequate care and compassion for many years to come. The value of day hospice programs to support community members with a life-limiting illness and their loved ones is clear. Each year, hundreds of people of all ages benefit from our existing psychospiritual and bereavement support programs, as well as our community programs. There is so much more we could offer if not for our current space constraints. McNally's new day hospice center will provide a one-stop, multifaceted, coordinated approach to care with the needs of the patient and their family in the forefront. The center will provide a space for people living through similar experiences to gather and to participate in the programs that help them manage their specific needs. It will also afford a much-needed day of respite for families caring for their loved one. The project will also include a new 10-bed residential hospice. The addition of 4 beds will increase our residential care spaces by almost 70%, substantially growing our capacity to care for people in the final stages of life. Now, this project completes the campus of care on the West Lincoln Memorial site with the new hospital, Deer Park, and McNally House Day Hospice and Residential Hospice. I'll now turn the next portion of the presentation to our consultants that will guide us through the Lot 39 application first. Terry? And you can move to the next slide too, Walter. Thank you.
Thank you, Murray. Good evening, Mayor, councillors, and neighbors. My name is Terry Johns. I'm the owner of T. Johns Consulting. We do land use planning, design, and project management. I have with me this evening Diana Morris, our senior planner, and Caitlin Gillis, our intermediate planner. We've been working with McNally since 2018 on the expansion. Our role is to assist with the planning process, but also as professional planners, it's our job to ensure that changes to land uses are appropriate. Where feasible, we use our planning tools to incorporate measures to mitigate any potential impacts to improve compatibility, and that's as outlined by Walter in the official plan. In this case, the tool that we'll be using is a proposed site-specific bylaw and the associated regulations, but I'll get into more detail on that later on in my presentation. First, I'd like to start with a high-level overview of the neighborhood. As Walter noted, policy-wise, the town of Grimsby recognizes the institutional campus as an important feature of the neighborhood. Shown on this plan, the 24.5-acre campus houses the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital, Deer Park Villa and Suites, and in green is our McNally Hospice. The campus has a long-standing historic role in this location. And as Murray noted, it's undergoing redevelopment to expand services. These 3 users share the same property and provide a wide spectrum of care. The hospital is served by an access point along Main Street, which is a regional road. There's no connection from the hospital for vehicular traffic to the North Campus. The northern portion is served by an access point located in the residential neighborhood off of Central Avenue. Originally, it served just Deer Park, which I understand was built in 1987, and it now also serves McNally, which was built in 2007. As Murray noted, To accommodate the expansion of McNally, we've submitted 2 planning applications. Next slide, please. The first application pertains to a parcel we call Lot 39. Shown in orange on this slide, it has frontage on Central Avenue, but it will be developed to access the existing internal driveway. Policy-wise, as Walter noted, it is included in the institutional campus, but the zoning doesn't allow it to be used for parking. So an application has been submitted. Next slide. And just to remind everyone, this is a recent picture, yes, snow in April, showing it's currently vacant, surrounded by cedars with a wooden fence located along the access drive. Next slide, please. The purpose of this slide is to illustrate the intended final development of Lot 39. It will include 8 parking spaces, and as I noted, access will be from the internal driveway that serves McNally and Deer Park. I mentioned at the outset that as planners, we have the ability to use planning tools to ensure that any potential impacts as a result of land use change are mitigated or lessened. In this case, the planning tool is the proposed bylaw. Specifically, we have proposed to introduce a 2-meter privacy fence along the western boundary beside 134 Central Avenue. Further, as shown on this landscape plan, we will have a buffer of 5 meters or more around the perimeter of the property. These regulations will be incorporated directly into the site-specific bylaw. The plan that's in front of you this evening for Lot 39 shows an overall landscape area of 65%. All of these details will be implemented through the next process that is known as site plan approval, and that will encompass the entirety of the planned expansion. Murray, I think you'd like to show us next a rendering of what this is going to look like when it's done.
Yes, certainly. If we could have the next slide, please. In previous meetings, phone calls, driveway visits, we've had discussions with several neighbors who have shared their concerns about the project. Now, where possible, we've tried to accommodate the idea for landscaping. For Lot 39, there are presently a number of emerald cedars. They are in need of a good trim, but this conceptual drawing adds to the number of cedars, and it's laid out in such a manner as to hide the proposed parking from the street as much as possible, keep with the character of the residential setting as well. Although these are items that Terry just mentioned are generally presented in a site plan, these have been the comments and concerns of neighbors close to Lot 39, and we want to ensure them that we're listening. So back to you, Terry, please.
Thank you, Murray. So that's our application number 1. And if you could go to the next slide, please, Walter. I'm going to move on to application number 2, which is known as 19 Linwood Avenue. It's shown in orange here on the slide, just south of Central Drive and across from Sunny Lee Crescent. The purpose of this application is to allow for the lot to be redeveloped for an access drive and a parking area that will be associated with the new hospice that's to be built on the campus. In the consultation meeting last February, and in subsequent conversations that McNally's had with the neighbors, we acknowledge that there are strong concerns about this application. From our understanding, there are 3 issues. Number 1, why can't McNally's new building be accessed from within the campus? Number 2, the new access and parking will create too much traffic on our roads. And finally, the parking lot and drive will negatively impact the appearance of the neighborhood. This evening, we're going to speak to these 3 areas. Next slide. We recognize that given the size of the campus, it seems logical that an alternative access could be achieved. Unfortunately, given a number of constraints, that isn't the case. We included an alternative access analysis in our planning justification report. What I'd like to do is to illustrate the findings this evening. The challenges surround both the physical environment and the planning policy framework. The physical challenge is due to the presence of a watercourse. It runs up the east side of the campus and heads westward just above Deer Park, as shown on the slide in blue. In terms of policy framework, the watercourse is recognized by the region of Niagara as a Type 2 fish habitat. The town zoning bylaw addresses it with a hazard land overlay. Further, it's regulated by the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. Their stringent policies discourage crossing of this watercourse. In fact, their policies prefer other alternatives be used. As I indicated, a number of redevelopments are happening on the campus. This includes Deer Park, who are planning an expansion on the north side of their building. As such, that property isn't available to McNally. With all of these factors, it's necessary to establish a separate access that will be solely dedicated to the new hospice. We believe that the use of 19 Linwood is acceptable for these reasons. It's located across from an existing controlled intersection, being Linwood and Sunny Lee. This is an appropriate point on the street. Secondly, as we're providing an alternative access, we are having regard to the provincial, regional, and municipal policies associated with the watercourse. And finally, given its limited use, as it will only serve the McNally Hospice, we believe it's appropriate. The second major concern that I mentioned revolves around the change in land use and the potential impacts on your roads. In recognition of this concern, McNally Hospice retained the services of Paradigm Transportation Solutions to prepare a traffic impact statement. This was submitted as part of the complete applications. Tonight, we've asked Adam Makarich, Senior Project Manager, to present the findings of that technical report. Adam?
Thank you, Terry. Paradigm was retained to undertake a traffic impact study for the proposed development. The intent of a traffic impact study is to assess potential impacts of traffic caused by a proposed development and identify any improvements required to ensure the road network will operate acceptably upon completion of the proposed development. Traffic impact studies grade intersections on level of service from A to F to objectively measure the performance of traffic volumes. In most cases, it measures how well a system delivers a certain level of service and the perception by drivers. Level of service A represents limited to no delay, while level of service F represents high delays. In terms of traffic, the development will add 19 new trips during the morning and afternoon peak hours to the area roadways. These are relatively low traffic volumes, and the intersections of Linwood Avenue with Sunny Lee Crescent and Central Avenue will operate at level of service A. Although the proposed development will not have a significant impact on traffic operations, it's positioned well from a safety perspective. The applicant is committed to work with the community and complete a traffic monitoring program after the project is complete to validate the operational assessment. I'll throw it back to Terry now.
Well, thank you, Adam. Walter, can you just flip the slide for me? Apologies, we did have this. I'm just going to wait a few minutes. Okay, thank you. I've got a slide here showing the existing site conditions. This is taken from Sunny Lee looking towards Linwood, and that's the existing house that's on the property. So the third concern that we heard about has to do with what the impact on the neighborhood and what it's going to look like. Next slide. The purpose of this slide is to illustrate the intended final development plan for Linwood. It will include a 6-meter access drive and 18 parking spaces. The Grimsby policy document allows low-density residential to provide support to the institutional campus, but the current zoning, as Walter highlighted, doesn't allow this use. Our proposal is to maintain the residential zoning, but to allow this plan as a site-specific exception. Just as we proposed for Lot 39, we've incorporated further regulations into the amending bylaw that will address the concern about the appearance of the parking in the accessway. Specifically, we've proposed privacy fencing at a height of 2 meters on the north and south residential lots. Along the frontage of Linwood, we've proposed a 9-meter, which is about 29.5 feet, setback from the street to the start of any parking space, rather than the required 3 meters. And this yard is intended to be landscaped. We believe the setback and the landscaping will assist to mitigate any implication of the appearance of this proposed land use change on Linwood Avenue. We've asked for a slight reduction in the length of a parking space to ensure we're meeting the town's minimum buffer beside each home of 4.5 meters. In total, the landscaping plan in front of you here on the slide represents about 45% of green space. We believe that these regulations and implementation of this landscape plan will serve to mitigate any concerns about the appearance of change. Next slide. This is a high-level look at the Linwood lot incorporated with the new hospice. And please appreciate this is a preliminary drawing, but I wanted to show you how it was going to work together. As I indicated, the site-specific regulations will be incorporated into the amending bylaw. These will be reflected in the final site plan that will be submitted to the town of Grimsby for the entire redevelopment proposal. We appreciate that change is difficult, but we believe with the site-specific bylaw, in addition to the evidence from the traffic impact statement, as well as the limited nature of development that this will serve, it will all mitigate any potential issues. McNally has been a longtime neighbor and wishes to ensure a continued positive relationship. They're committed to building a project that complements your neighborhood. Murray, I believe you have some renderings to show what Linwood is going to look like.
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Terry. Yes, if we could have the next slide, please. Again, as with Lot 39, we've had additional conversations with neighbors, and they stress their desire to keep with a residential look. In these conceptual drawings, we've attempted to beautify the entranceway and hide the parking spots as much as possible. There are privacy fences, as Terry mentioned, both on the north and south property line. The next slide, please. Around the rest of the perimeter of Linwood and central property lines, there is a natural privacy living wall. And then through further consultation with our neighbors, we may end up with more adaptations and changes depending on the conversation. Perhaps something natural rather than fence, or maybe the other way around. And then the next slide, please. Thank you. So these depictions are a result of what we've heard. And again, we recognize this is site plan stuff, but it is important to the local residents to have a sense of what it would look like. I'm now going to ask if Debbie Zimmerman, I think you might have some closing remarks for us, Debbie, and if you could go to the next slide, please, Walter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Murray, and good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be here to speak about the expansion of McNally House and a New Day Hospice. As Murray explained, over 12 years ago, the Niagara West communities came together around the very important idea that life can be lived well to the very end and lived with dignity in a very home-like setting. McNally was born out of this concept, and we were blessed to have a site donated and located beside a long-term care facility that was newly built with West Lincoln Memorial to the south. Today, the expansion of West Lincoln Memorial closer to Deer Park with the expansion of West Lincoln Memorial Hospital closer to Deer Park Villa and McNally's expansion, the drawing on the screen really exemplifies the campus of care that is both unique for communities across Ontario and provides opportunities to maximize shared services like landscaping, parking, and this partnerships puts resources into care rather than into infrastructure. The Campus of Care also provides as a model for governments when providing funding support. McNally is working closely with both Hamilton Health Science and the Niagara region to maximize the benefits that come with this unique opportunity. Most everyone recognizes West Lincoln Memorial Hospital for the outstanding maternity care. McNally shares the same gold standard of compassionate care for those at the end of their lives. And as Murray has explained, communities grow and McNally is part of that growth. Tonight, we're here to present our proposal, but we also want to hear and listen and consider your thoughts, your ideas, and to address your concerns. Thank you to all for being here. Murray?
Yes, that completes our presentation, and just thanks to those who helped put this all together. And we'll turn it back to whomever takes it on from this point. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your presentation. Debbie, Murray, et al. First up from the public, we have Wayne Mullins from 8 Linwood. Wayne, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity to let me have a few prepared comments on this. From a residential Linwood Avenue property owner, most people in the neighborhood feel that this should be a non-starter based on the impact to the neighborhood. No resident in a stable Grimsby residential neighborhood should ever have to be concerned about having a parking lot development put in beside their home. I don't think anybody in this session this evening would want that. And yet that's what this proposal does. Walter already mentioned a few things that the official plan states in this regard. First, that parking is not permitted. The other thing that the official plan talks about is stable residential neighborhoods retaining their existing character with limited change. And in fact, it should protect and enhance the character and image of the existing residential neighborhoods. A parking lot in a neighborhood does not meet those elements of the official plan intention. Don't get me wrong, we support McNally's mandate and place in the community, but the desire to add 4 beds, expand counseling services, and providing day hospice care shouldn't overtake a stable residential neighborhood or be disruptive or regressive to the neighborhood. This is not of minimal impact to the neighborhood. It alters the streetscape and the neighborhood in several respects. We talked about parking not being permitted. That's not a parking lot is not compatible with the existing low density neighborhood plan or the Linwood Avenue streetscape, regardless of how you try to hide it. With this proposed design, the fact of the matter is the institutional lands can't meet the parking requirements of the institution. This shouldn't mean that an institution is allowed to start buying up stable residential neighborhood lands. Instead, as in other Ontario municipalities, organizations should be required to work within the institutional land allowances that they've been given. Today, McNally has 11 parking spots for 6 beds. Somehow, adding 4 beds and day and hospice and counseling grows the parking lot by an astounding 400% to 44 parking spots. Nobody has explained why that is required. And I think the traffic volume flow that was just mentioned said that there was going to be 19 transitions per day out of the parking lot. So why do we need that many parking spots if there's only 19 transitions per day? It just doesn't sound right. The other thing that hasn't been mentioned are the trees in the streetscape. The images show, in fact, that trees are disappearing from the streetscape, yet nothing was mentioned about that. The trees on that property are significant. Seen from above, they tower over the area, and the manner in which their mass overhangs the street is a significant component of the Linwood streetscape look. The town's official plan says trees are to be preserved. As a matter of fact, in 7.4.1 of the official plan, it says new developments shall maintain existing street trees. And yet this plan shows removal of trees. There's also a direct impact to the neighbors. The houses at the corner on Sunnylee are impacted as the yards opposite to Linwood have no backyards. The design of the properties are that they have side yards. So these side yards look specifically at the property as the trucks, ambulances, service vehicles, and visitors are passing in and out of the property. No mention either that there's dumpsters at the back of people's properties, or the traffic flow, in fact, in and out of the property. The other thing that hasn't really been talked about either is the stream that's in the back. Yes, it's been mentioned, but it is a regulated floodplain with restrictions on it. Grimsby plan says that development is to be restricted in areas of flooding. Yet this proposal ignores that and even goes against the provincial policy statement, which says in the provincial policy statement 3.1.5, development should not be permitted to locate in hazardous sites where the use is an institutional use, including hospital, long-term care homes, retirement homes, etc. Hazardous sites include floodplains. Land use is not permitted where there's a threat to the safe evacuation of vulnerable populations such as older persons, persons with disabilities, and those who are sick or young during an emergency as a result of flooding, failure of floodproofing measures or protection or erosion. And yet this proposal has patient rooms and patios and facilities facing directly onto an identified floodplain, and only one emergency route in or out into an area that we know floods even today and would probably flash flood in 1 in 100 or 1 in 200 year events. This should be looked at seriously and not accepted as a rubber stamp endorsement from the region. I will even read you another thing from the Ontario's study of the 2019 floods on challenges and opportunities on managing flood risk, where it says, Ontario ministry policies do not support using flood protection landforms to open areas for development. Flooding hazard limits do not support the use of flood protection landforms, such as berms, dikes, flood walls, or other structural methods as flood control or to facilitate development in hazardous floodplains. The construction of flood protection landforms can create or aggravate existing hazards and would therefore is not consistent with Section 3 of the provincial policy statement. It goes on quite a bit about flooding. But as we already know that some of the properties there do flood in that existing property, I think it really needs to give serious consideration as to why you would want council to vote against the provincial policy statement. Whatever is done, this is a regulated floodplain, and there is a requirement to have zero impact on neighboring properties in flood conditions as a result of any development. So we would like to see how that requirement is addressed with this application, as there's no evidence that I've seen that this is in place. I'll conclude by just saying that every project becomes a precedent. It will represent what can be done anywhere in any residential area of town and will create that opening for the future. So once McNally can buy a house in a residential area and turn it into a parking lot, if that gets approved, this can be done anywhere. I don't think the staff or councillor want to be planners who allowed an institutional building to be built on a hazardous floodplain, or be the ones who paved paradise and put in a parking lot. We know we've got what we've got now, and replacing it with asphalt is not the right path to be going down. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Up next, we have Jerry Vericchio from 134 Central Avenue. Jerry, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start off by thanking Murray and the folks for the presentation. It certainly was informative. My home is lot 40, right next to lot 39. And I won't say too much other than I echo Wayne's sentiments regarding the viability or the legality of parking lots in the residential area. Obviously, and speaking for the neighbors around lot 39, our preference would be that even though the parking proposal is substantially less than what is being proposed for Linwood Avenue, it still is something that the neighborhood here does not want to see. And for some of the, certainly for the same reasons that Wayne articulated. The concern here as well is for traffic. While we've, as a neighborhood, dealt with a lot of traffic coming in through the existing driveway, both for Deer Park and for the hospice, with the hospice looking at changing the existing building to a daycare center with programs that are running more consistently on a regular basis. We too here are also concerned about the traffic and whatever noise increase and issues come with that. For whatever it's worth, in canvassing the neighborhood here, our preference obviously would be not to have a parking lot in that particular lot 39, and especially for myself and my wife to have the parking lot next to us. It's not something that we would want to see. Having said that, in the event that we are not able to prevent this proposed development, then obviously we would be looking to McNally House to try to mitigate the impact of what they're doing. And I know that we've had some reasonable and positive discussions with Murray and others in trying to at least through landscaping design try to mitigate the impact. So to be clear, our position would be not to have the rezoning happen in the parking lot there, but in the event it does happen, then certainly we want to continue our dialogue to try to mitigate the impact that will have. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Up next, we have Bill Thompson, 16 Sunny Lee. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I'm living on 16 Sunny Lee. We are 2 houses away from the proposed parking area. Our family is not opposed to this. We, in fact, feel it's a good thing because we were concerned that if there's not a parking area there, the house could be sold and then another large home taken in the spot. Currently, the traffic in our area, most of the homes in our region area around that intersection have more or multiple cars in the driveway. And so we create our own traffic because of the cars. I don't speak for, but I know that other neighbors within the realm of Sunny Lee that are close to the intersection are not opposed to this. And I would only say that our concern with this, if it is a parking lot, is that there be no street parking allowed as overflow, which would impact on the street. But otherwise, our family is in favor of this proposal at 16 Sunny Lee.
Thank you, Bill. Up next, we have Joan Morrison, 11 Sunny Lee Crescent. Welcome, Joan. All right, we don't see Joan, so we have up next Adrian Brown, 46 Hewitt Drive. Welcome, Adrian. Up next, we have John Schrader, 156 Central Avenue. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Good evening. Not much to say. I live at, as you all know, 156 Central, and I'm confused with the amount and the request for parking to come through Linwood for no other reason but between McNally and the retirement home that I walk my dog every day has 100 parking spots. 100. And I can honestly say, in the 8 years that I've lived here, that if I've seen even 20 cars in that parking lot at any given time, that's a lot. I see no need for any of the additional parking that's required at Linwood. And it would totally, the amount of traffic that we already endure on Central, we certainly would not need any more. We have a new development, as I'm sure you may not know, but certainly down the road, 2 blocks with 144 townhouses. You can only imagine at 1 car per house, and most cars and families today have 2. We have more than enough traffic in this area. We don't need any more. And I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Up next, Amy Appel and Craig Reed, 21 Linwood Avenue. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to bring up a couple of concerns that I have should the rezoning be approved. I live at 21 Linwood, so directly beside 19 Linwood, and behind, I would be impacted with the development behind my house as well. We are working and had some really great conversations with McNally in relation to, sorry, my dog is just here for 1 second. We've had some good conversations in relation, to fencing along the property beside us and in the back. I was just curious, I didn't see any mention of lighting and what lighting would be in the proposed parking lot beside me and behind me. And I didn't know the impact that would have on my house and when I'm outside or in the evening. And I know with night shift, I'm sure you have to have the parking lot lighted for safety reasons for staffing. So I was just curious if there was any mention or any discussion about what type of lighting or what that would be or how much lighting. And the other only concern that I have would be, I love the idea of a campus of care. I think that's the way and the future of healthcare. But I do have a concern. I think I've worked in a campus of care, and the only problem that I have seen is when you call yourself a campus of care, many staff may believe to be that parking lot may be appropriate for them to utilize. And so I would be concerned that staffing from the hospital, because when the hospital is being rebuilt, it will be built back closer to Deer Park into this area. Although I know there's a flood plan and I know they may not be able to access it, but we already do have parking beside us on the street for people to park at the hospital, obviously, because it is free. So I didn't know if there was a plan in place to monitor the parking lot. Is the parking lot specifically for McNally only use, or will it be access for the campus? And so I think that would be I would like that addressed if possible, if you have a plan for that. And I didn't know with the traffic study, I guess they did mention that it does not have a huge impact, but they would be looking at that if the build should move forward. Is that does not require a sidewalk to be put in place because of the minimal impact that was that the study, basically what came out of the study. I'm just curious if there would be a sidewalk or not. For safety reasons, I have 3 kids and they like to be outside playing quite often. So I just want to make sure that that wasn't overlooked, or if that's not required because of the study presenting that there is a minimal impact. And I think that is all I have. Oh, sorry, one more. I was just curious. I did love the pictures. I think the pictures of the entranceway look absolutely beautiful. I was just curious. I know you had mentioned a fence, and I've been chatting with McNally about this, but I didn't notice what would be if there was a fence that would be proposed on the back of my house. So that would be the front of the new build. I just wasn't sure if that was discussed or if that would be a topic of discussion. And I think that is all I have this evening. So thank you all for listening.
Great, thank you, Amy. Walter, you can direct the questions. I think it was the lighting, the parking, and the fence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to the lighting, a lighting plan will have to be, if we get to the site plan stage, obviously, the lighting plan would have to be submitted, which would illustrate what type of fixtures would be placed and where on the property, and identify what the lighting levels would be on every portion of the property as a result of those fixtures being located in specific locations. Obviously, our goal, if there is lighting being proposed, would be that it be directed away from residential lots and towards the site, and there would be no spillover or significant spillover anyway onto neighboring properties. And also we take glare into account. So even though the light levels may not be significant, we try to encourage lighting to face down as opposed to facing out. The fencing, it's something that we normally require adjacent to amenity areas. So there is a parking lot proposed directly behind our property, as you know. Our requirement through site plan process would be that a fence be installed. Our zoning bylaw has a maximum height of 2 meters, but that would be appropriate. And there appears to be opportunities for landscaping along the fencing area also. So that's something that we would also look for. I don't recall, was there another, Mr. Mayor, was there another question?
Yeah, I think it was a parking lot question.
It was just, sorry, I can rephrase that question. It was just
Sure.
The concern about adopting the term like campus of care, which is the future of healthcare. I just worry the mixed messages that might give to workers either at Deer Park or at the hospital, that they may consider that parking lot for them to use, or that could be additional people coming down this way. We already know we get a lot of parking on this street because people don't want to pay for parking. But so just curious if that had been looked at or how that would be monitored for just McNally House staff.
So I can answer that one. So at McNally House, we've had that challenge in the past, especially when we first built that staff from the hospital and from Deer Park would use our space. We do monitor the existing parking lot on a continuous basis because of that. And the messaging is that we have only the limited amount for McNally House and we ask them to move. So we would be implementing the same protocol as we do at the parking lot now at McNally House. So thank you, Amy, for that question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Steve and Sabrina Terche. 160 Central Avenue. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Merrick. Thank you. I think a lot of my questions have already been asked and answered. My only concern is with the actual traffic study that was completed. I'm not sure exactly when it was done, but I'm guessing it's been within the last year. So of course we have COVID to thank, and traffic, you don't have a lot of the work traffic because people are working from home right now. So I don't know if adding, you know, the additional 19 trips is going to make a difference in mornings, you know, for the commuters who are leaving and going to and from work, as well as being on Central and walking, obviously, with my dog every night. I noticed that speed is also a factor in this neighborhood, and cars seem to be going quite fast. So definitely installing sidewalks, maybe speed humps or something on the street just to slow traffic down so that we, you know, have a safe neighborhood. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Louisa McAlpine, 17 Linwood. All right, I don't see Louise.
I'm here.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and everyone. I was involved in the, actually, I'm here on behalf of my mother, who is also Louisa McAlpine, and her residence is 17 Linwood Avenue. And my parents and my family have lived there for well over 50 years. The concern, I know a lot of neighbors have already brought up some of the concerns. The lighting is a concern, just to add some of the points. Also had a question about the gentleman who gave the stats on the traffic study. 19 incidences, 19, I don't quite understand the 19 cars coming in or going out. Not sure about that. And if this parking lot has 19 or 18 spots, then even if workers are there, that's twice a day, plus everybody coming in and out. It's going to really impact the traffic. Also, in the depiction of from the proposed, how it's going to look with the lovely landscaping and everything, the view from Sunny Lee, looking at the property of 19 Linwood, it doesn't show the two-story, whatever is going to be built, whatever McNally's building in the background, nor does the view from Central. So we see the trees and all the gardens and the fences, great, but what's that big building going to look like, and what are we going to see there? And my other concern, again, on my mom's behalf, being a senior citizen, is what's this going to do to the property value? Those are have been, as you know, a well-established neighborhood. Everyone keeps the property really, really nice, except the guy who lived in 19 Linwood. You know, what's this going to do to property value? Who wants to live next to that? I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. I think just a clarification of the traffic study and then the building height. Walter?
Maybe we can have Adam answer that question. I believe it was 19 trips during the peak hour in the morning and afternoon.
Sure.
Adam, can you elaborate?
Yep, thanks, Walter. So when we conduct a traffic impact study, we typically look at the busiest times of the day, which is the morning peak hour and the afternoon peak hour. And through data provided by McNally House, the estimates came from the numbers of staff, visitors, nurses, and volunteers that are expected to use the facility. So through that information, we developed those projections and indicated that there would be 19 trips during the morning peak hour and 19 trips during the afternoon peak hour. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think there was a question, maybe it was just a comment about the building size. It may not have been a question, so. All right, we'll move to Paul DiPietra, 152 Central.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. Lots has been addressed already as far as my concerns go. I just had a question about they mentioned that there were other alternative measures looked at. One of them being building over the creek, but they could not build over the creek because of floodplain issues. Yet on McNally's drawings, they have a bridge going over the creek. So how is one bridge not allowed and the other bridge is? That's one of my comments. And like the other comments, we're protected, we're supposed to be protected as residents when we purchase our homes through the bylaws and through the official plan for stuff like this, the rezoning and having parking lots between the two houses. I don't agree with it at all. There's lots of land back there. The parking should be hidden and concealed behind the residents, behind the houses. It's not fair to the residents on either side of 19 Linwood to have cars facing their houses, engines starting at all hours of the night. Again, that impacts property values, people's standard of living, all that. Again, this community has been impacted by the entrance on Central Avenue. It's increased traffic, vehicle traffic, truck traffic, garbage trucks, ambulances, you name it. So living at 152 Central Avenue, I've been impacted firsthand by all that traffic. And we do have sidewalks on Central. Although they don't attach to each other, they actually end on one side of the street and continue on the other side, which is another issue. But Linwood not having sidewalks, there's definitely a need for sidewalks and safety, especially for the community that's going to have to endure this new build if it happens. Thank you for the time. I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you. I guess the only question or comment was about the bridge. Walter?
Terry, maybe you can answer that question.
I will do my best, Walter. So thank you for that question. The portion that you saw in the drawing was actually the upper part of a building that's allowed to go over the water course because there's no on-ground implications. And I'm not an engineer, but I'm going to do my best to explain this. So it's in the air, it's not impacting the actual ground and construction. The ability to actually build an access road requires it to be closer to the ground and to meet engineering standards, which are very different than putting a pedestrian building connection across in the air. And that's the best way that I can explain that comparison.
Thank you. Up next, we have Debbie Kopachen, 23 Linwood Avenue.
Hello, I'm thanking you for the opportunity to speak. Most of my concerns have been addressed. I'll just reiterate, though, that the property values, I believe, are going to be significantly affected if we go ahead with the Linwood Avenue property. I'm at 23 Linwood Avenue, so 2 houses down from the subject property. And then the second concern I had was if the ZBA or zoning bylaw amendment does go ahead, then this definitely would be an open gate for anybody else in the town of Grimsby to apply for and perhaps get the same kind of compensation for it. They would be allowed to go ahead and do this. So anyway, my comments and my concerns were very well illustrated by Wayne Mullins. And aside from that, I'm I'm happy to hear anybody else's concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a note for Jane Moore, 13 Linwood. She sent a letter in. I don't know if she's here to speak. That's fine. If she's not here, then up next is Denise Marshall. Welcome, Denise. Denise, you're muted, I think.
Of course. So thank you, Mr. Mayor and town councillors and everybody. It's been great to hear the comments tonight, really helpful. I just want to state that I'm not here on behalf of McNally House. I have not been a voting board member of McNally House since we opened in 2008, but I am your local palliative care doctor. I serve as their medical director, and I'm the medical director on the Niagara West palliative care team. And still 30 years later, I'm out there across Niagara West. And really, I feel like I'm a supplicant tonight, not an applicant. I feel like a supplicant. I do feel I want to give you a big picture, and I do feel like I'm sort of pleading. And if I look weary, it's because I started the day at 7 at West Lincoln on the new planning committee that every hospital has. If things get worse in Ontario, those decisions we have to make of who will get care, a critical care, and who won't, and how we're going to do that, and how we'll support doctors and nurses and families. So believe me, it's not lost on me. I started the day thinking about dying well, and I'm just so stressed about that. And here we are talking about dying well again. So you guys, I am listening to your comments, and I don't think I can allay fears about property value and stuff like that. I could say property value increased when we opened it in the first place, and property value around hospitals and these facilities just keeps going up and retains itself. I could say you guys have already run the postal code lottery. You're living in the Linwood neighborhood in Grimsby, Ontario. And I'm watching the news, watching how people are dying. And I guess the big container I want to give you is we are not doing well, meaning globally and in Canada, most people are not dying well. And so I just feel like Murray said, there's a moral imperative, not just McNally House, but every single organization and every citizen. The World Health Organization says dying well is a basic human right. And I think, you know, like we did before when we opened McNally, we had to look at floodplains and fishways and bylaws and all that. And I know if we all pull in the same direction, that we can do this. But McNally House has to do more. Like every organization involved in dying has to do more, and every citizen has to do more. The inequities, I mean, I can even watch the news about how people are dying in India. But in Canada, we have slipped significantly. People are not dying well. The 80% of people who want to die in a community setting are not. We are still a country of hospital deaths, and hospitals don't want them. So I hope that this is a helpful sort of plea. I know it's an ask. I guess I'm asking you to set aside some of your worries or concerns. That is, I guess, a kind of suffering to be worried about stuff like that. But I'm asking you if you can compare that to the greater good, whether you're town council or you're the staff in the town or the neighbors. I think we can all give something to this. For the neighbors in the area, I do hear you very much. But I also want to say to you guys, you have a gift that only you can give. And to not overstate that, only you can be the neighbors here. And it is a unique gift. If we say, well, we all have to make dying well go better, what can we all give? There's the major benefactors, there's the fundraisers, the volunteers, there's the staff that work and helping people die better. But only you guys can be the neighbors. And it is a gift. It's a unique gift. And I just want to acknowledge that would be a gift. And if I can commit to anything, because I am not in charge of this with McNally, but I have been around this block and I'm still there. And you guys, I would just say, if we can do what it takes, wrestle these barriers to the ground, figure it out. And it's been a beautiful discussion, very collegial and supportive. Then I feel like not all of us are going to go to India. We don't all have that calling to go overseas, but I do trust that the universe presents us at the right time. Literally, like, where can I create more social justice? Where can I help dying well go well? It's literally right here, literally for some of us outside our front door. So if we could see this as what we're able to give, to this, I know, and I would commit to you as your local palliative care doctor, for people you may never know or meet, this will be felt, this will be seen, this will be honored, and it will never be forgotten. So no matter what the barriers are, I just want to give that big container to say, we must and we can do this. Thank you for your time tonight. By the way, I live at 23 Kingsway, if you need my address. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. That concludes our speakers list for this evening. And so council will be meeting us. We will be having a special council meeting in an hour at 8:30 right here. So everyone have a good evening. And that concludes the Planning and Development Open House for Monday, April 28th, 2021. Thank you. Good night, everyone.